You're listening to Mid-Atlantic Gravel, Travel, and Dirt.
All right, buddy, I'm Brian.
And I'm Joey.
I'm Matt.
Folks, this is episode 260. Did you hear my voice crack? Oh, I must be reaching puberty. 260 of Mid-Atlantic Gravel, Travel, and Dirt. If you're new here, folks, this is the podcast where we talk about gravel bikes, adventure biking, bike packing, bike camping, just playing bikes. This week, we've got Matt Hawkins from Ridge Supply, and we are going to talk about the world of Croatan Buck 50, which is the event to kick off 2025, in my humble opinion. I think it is. Welcome, Matt. Glad to have you here.
Thanks, fellas. Appreciate being back.
Joey, how has your week been?
I'll do a quick we had our first race.
Yeah?
Because the first one was a time trial, and this was a real race.
How long did it take you to recover?
Still recovering, because I've been in Georgetown the last couple of days, but it's been good.
Another issue.
I've been, physically it's different.
Yeah, this was Button Farm?
Button Farm. I think the thing that's going to tie nicely into this is it was the first experience of we had a huge farm setup, huge race course, and we had the best camping setup possible. And like the vibes were super high, and you could definitely tell the kids that spent the evening camping, bonfires, like glow in the dark kickball. The next day, like they were a different level of excited than not everyone's going to camp, but
glow in the dark kickball.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something can we bring glow-in-the-dark kickball to Croatan Buck 50, Matt? Would that be acceptable?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
It's like everyone had on the little like
it's a
neon.
lot of room.
Yeah.
All the neon like light up. What do you break it? And then like
glow sticks.
Yeah,
the
glow stick bases, and you're roasting a marshmallow, and then down the hill is a kickball game going on at 9:30 at night.
Wow,
there was axe throwing, but like. Not real axe throwing. It was cool. Like there was all kinds of games set up, and the energy was high.
Nickel has got it going on. Now you organize all these things
No, that was just teams.
Teams do it. Oh my goodness! So they come in and they bring their own vibe and they do their own things like that. That is super cool.
Yeah.
That is really, really awesome.
Yeah.
Hey Matt, maybe you need like a youth kind of presence down there at Buck 50. Maybe that's something. The street utes. We can bring some street utes and turn them into bike utes. That'll work.
I'm all for it. Well, the more NICA kids we can get down here, the better.
That would be super cool. That'd be fun.
Yeah, it was a good weekend. And it just occurred to me yesterday, I've spent the last month, I live in gym shorts now. And, like, sandals and, I don't get dressed, really.
Our studio is currently being invaded by landscapers. I don't know if folks will be able to hear that or not, but it might be a slight distraction for Joey and I, as they're literally cutting your front yard.
Joey, I'm not sure that you could call what you did before getting dressed. That's maybe an overstatement of your attire at the shop, because I've seen pictures,
I'll defend him. He was always dapper. You had your
I would say for a handful of pictures, I look like I just woke up and put whatever on. That's usually what happens. But 90% of the time, after the last maybe year or two, I realized that we're a bunch of kids. So I always did try to start dressing nice. Nice pants, nice button up.
And to be fair,
nice boots.
Both Joey and I's attire is totally dependent upon, and our appearance is totally dependent upon folks like you, Matt, and Alex and Chris at Dirty Kitten, and Travis over at Grusk, because the clothing that you put us in is literally what we spend our life in.
Oh, I mean, like 18 years of I probably have 100 shirts from Specialized alone.
Yeah.
Like I got to start purging them. Shimano, Yeah, I need to buy real clothes to go out in the public that aren't bike related. You
should give them away to like your NICA kids.
Yeah, because they're extra larges.
I've got a whole box of T-shirts that I'm going to give to you to give away.
I don't want those.
Come on. Anyway, I've got Tour de Chunk coming up this weekend. It's the big Canton gravel weekend that Eric puts on. We're going up Friday. I'll see Ted and Larry. We're there all the way through Monday. We do like a big thing on Saturday, like a prep ride, and then we do the race thing on Saturday. It's a small race. It's a very small select group of I think there's only 100 people, 125 people. So it's a small race.
And I will say that Canton Cycling Club comes all the way down to Swansboro.
Yes, they do.
They were all at Buck
Yes,
50
they
the
do.
last couple of years.
Yeah. All right, so let's dive in, Matt. Let's talk about Buck 50. Now, listen, we have talked about the course over and over again, and it seems to me like the course is kind of settled in. You know, would that be a fair assessment that, you know, you've got the way that it's kind of laid out? That's not going to change a whole lot, I don't feel like.
Yeah, I mean the roads are pristine. The fire we had in April of 2023 solved all that. All the roads have been fixed. This year, the only change to the route compared to the last couple years is that we're going to add back in Savage Road to the loop.
Okay.
But as you all probably know, Savage Road is, you know, completely fixed. So it is just a gravel addition to the loop. So when you're coming back from the aid station on any of the laps, you're going to make that left onto Savage Road and then come all the way out to Great Lake and then come out just like you normally do back to the pavement. So that will just alleviate a little bit of the two-way traffic in that area. And then also just for those of us who got to do Savage Road in its prime, it will be a little nostalgic to go through there. It's bizarre to see it wide and clean and graveled. So that's the only real addition to the course. It does change the mileage just a little bit. I think it adds 1.5 miles or something to the lap. So the times will be a little different for folks, but yeah, that's the only change. The cornfield is still part of the course, and this year they grew collard greens on there. So, and not that has a huge effect, but it means that we won't have corn stalks are kind of rough.
Yeah.
And it takes a little bit more preparation to get paths worn down and stuff in there. So we should be good to go. I will definitely, consider rebuilding a bridge through the ditch. And we did that, back in 2019 and it washed away, but I have clearance from the farmer to actually kind of put a more permanent ditch in there that won't wash away. So we might try to do that this year. If we're going to have a wet winter, you never really know, but.
Well, you know, the course always, we were talking about this in the prep, the course always has the curveball that comes in. Last year it was the cornfield. 2 years ago it was Sector 4. It's been Savage Road in the past. And we were talking about, I actually thoroughly enjoyed cornfield last year. I mean, again, I'm not racing it. And Joey, I mean, you're not out there racing it. Neither one of us are like trying. So it's like you get to that spot and it's like, ooh, this is going to be fun to get through. And you hop off the bike and you're slogging, and it's an experience. It's a shared experience. Yeah. So whatever.
I like to think too that I think it's an experience thing. If you've done a lot of events, or you've raced mountain bikes or whatever, you're just more used to like things that come up that are not just adversity, but just that are surprises or that are a little difficult, and you kind of take that challenge on. Mm-hmm. And then there are riders that this might be their first time ever doing an event, or they have the impression, albeit, a little bit of a mistake that as the director, we've somehow put this obstacle in their way on purpose. And the reality is, out here in the Croatan, we can only go so many places. Like, for instance, I know we've talked about this in the past, but like, we can't do a big loop. A loop doesn't exist. Right. And everyone every year, why don't we do a loop? Why don't we do it? Well, there is no loop. So if you have no loop and you're going to have a bike race, you have to do it the way we do it. And then you got to remember what the positive is. Like this out and back format that we have, which is not, I think Leadville's probably the only people that do an out and back format, but there is a real cool community aspect to that out and back format that until you come and do it, you don't know how cool it is. Now, granted, there are people that don't want to see anybody out there and they're grumpy, but most of us, when we see somebody else, it perks us up just a little bit, even if they're suffering just as much. So that's a cool part of the thing. But we don't do that on purpose. It's not because it's the best way to do it. It's the only way we can really navigate the way the forest is cut up. So
now, I liked the out and back, particularly in the wind, because whichever direction you're going, if you're going into the wind and you see the other people with big smiles on their faces getting that wind push, you know that eventually that's going to be you.
It shifted on me last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely the Croatan. It can cut you both ways. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You got to pay your taxes.
But we're always going to have wind. That's the other thing. If you've never been here, we're always going to have wind every time. And you just never know where it's going to get you. But it's legit. When we have wind here that people don't normally get to ride in. And it's 15 to 20 miles an hour. And that is legit. And when you have to ride into it, it can slow you down significantly. That's why working together in groups and also just the grind of the course is a lot harder on folks than they anticipate. They look at the elevation, they look at the mileage, they're like, you know what, this isn't a big deal. But even the 50-mile course is a lot if you're grinding in the wind by yourself. It can crack people, even though it's 3.5 hours max. It'll still crack people in that short amount of time. And if you're doing the Buck 50, that's a whole nother beast, because you could be in the wind for 75 miles legitimately. And that's crazy to think, but it's possible.
So let's take one step backwards, because we dove right in. Let's get the dates out of the way. Let's get all those details. And I know registration is getting ready to open. So when is the race? When is the race this year? What's the date?
Yeah, we went back to our standard format of one day. I think everybody who was here last year, we had a 2-day format. It wasn't ideal. The vibe was somehow off. Everybody wanted to be back to having one day, so that's fine with me. We're going to switch back to Saturday, March 15th.
Okay.
And so the event is back to the same format. The only change is the time. I slid it up 30 minutes. So we get a little bit earlier start. And typically this is the weekend after the time changes. So, we got a little bit extra light and we can get rolling. Even if it's sun's barely coming up, if we get rolling, we'll get done a little bit easier. And so we switched everything up 30 minutes, but that's the only change. Registration opens this Sunday at noon. So on September 15th. That also that date's kind of significant in that it is also going to be the 10-year anniversary of me getting run over by my buddy in the pickup truck, which helped kind of start Ridge Supply, which is kind of a wild coincidence. But and if you're wondering, if you've never done the race before, like why do you have registration 6 months out? The reason is, in order to put an event on of this size and with the amount of things that we do in advance to prepare for it, we need kind of a pretty solid guarantee of the numbers we're going to have. And it's a great way as a racer, I think, and I don't know if you all could speak to this, but when you commit to it 6 months out, it becomes something that you're going to do. Yep. And you can train all winter for it, or you can spend all winter being nervous that you haven't trained enough. That also happens.
Well, that you bring up a great point, because it is early in the season. Beware those Ides of March. You're hitting the date, and you think about it all winter long. And I know for me, it is a huge motivator to, like, if the weather's crappy outside, I'm going to stay on the trainer. I'm going to know I'm going to hit that. But man, every time I get a chance, I'm outside. I do 30 to 40 miles a day fairly consistently as I prep for Buck 50.
What do you do? What do you do all day for work?
Me? I do this.
That mileage.
Talking to a can.
That helped us
I think people. Go ahead, Joey.
Oh, so that helped us as a group. Like, we rode a lot as a group over the winter. I wasn't training like Dylan Johnson would. I trained at a much higher level than that. So It brought us together through the winter too, and then it brought us together there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
all those St.
Getting
James
your
rides.
I think there's this. I think there's this glue amongst all of the groups that are going to come. Even down here, we have a local group that starting basically now, they will meet every weekend, at the Pelletier Town Hall, and they'll ride in and they'll do some portion of the course. And obviously, they don't even really need to do the bike race because they can come ride the course. They're riding the course every weekend. But that's how good the course is, that you can actually train on it every weekend, not get bored of it, and then still be excited to do it in March. And that group is not alone. I know that there are folks that come down and recon and train here, for fun. It's not that far away from most folks if you're going to make a trip to ride. But for me, I think cyclists forget, we have amnesia. Every October when things slow down, we're like lost in the wilderness in November, December, January, February, and in anticipation, not just of the season, but of all the other events, like things like Dirty Kitten or Unpaved or whatever you also have planned in your year. You have to wait to get there. And there is this fall and winter death march that we all go through where the light's not there, the group rides aren't happening. And I hope that folks that do sign up are, not laser focused, but keep going through the winter with the focus of, in March, I'm not going to be at the top fitness for the year, but I'm going to be ready for this first test. And I think that's where we're uniquely kind of positioned in the.
You're helping people get there and stay there because like you mentioned, Unpaved and Dirty Kittens in the middle of the season, Unpaved's at the end of the season. I know that even if I didn't train over the winter, I'm going to ride the quote season, and by the time Unpaved rolls around, I'll be able to go do the thing. Yeah. But with Buck 50, you've really got to think about it, and it gives you that motivation.
Well, I think the best thing, like we were just talking about, is do it with your group of friends.
Yeah,
because that was a whole different level of motivation.
Well,
and you see like the TED group, and you see our group, and the Canton group, and all
Outsiders,
and that kept us going all season.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the experience of Buck 50 because it's a race. What's that?
I didn't mean to forget the Outsiders.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yes, it's a race. Yes, it's this big thing.
You can never forget the Outsiders.
No. How could you forget the Outsiders? Oh Lord, I got tarantulas loose in my car.
The scorpion. Sorry,
scorpion. It was a scorpion. That's right. It was a beefed up scorpion. Let's talk about the experience because, you mentioned these clubs and groups and people, and this is the perfect opportunity to kick your season as a small community off the right way because it is a full weekend experience of coming to an event, creating that community, hanging out. I mean, I don't know if that was a part of your goal or mission, Matt, but you certainly did hit that.
Yeah. I mean, and I can tell the backstory of how this event even started, and I think it'll make more sense to people.
Please, yeah.
But back in and I don't know if y'all have ever heard this story, but back in 2017, we had some Marines here that we rode with that were from Kansas, and they were dying to go do Dirty Kansas at the time, Dirty Kansas. And I reached out to the director of the race at the time and was like, hey, look, I've got this small brand. I've got this team together of 6 to 7 riders. We want to go. This was right after the race had happened in 2016. And I was like, hey, look, we want to go do this event and next year, but they had the lottery, there was really no guarantee. And I said, I'd like to be able to sponsor the race in some way or whatever. And we had this big plan. We're going to take this whole team out there. We're going to film it. We were going to train all winter. And he kind of got me hyped up, like maybe that was going to work. And he called me back maybe like 2 or 3 weeks later, or didn't even call me back, just kind of sent me a text message and said, look, it's not going to work out. We have a clothing sponsor. It's a conflict of interest. And so, yeah, you're not going to be able to do it. And which was fine. That's fine. It's big business and they didn't owe me anything. But my immediate response was, oh yeah, I can't come to your race. Well, I'm going to make my own race. And, of course that is a funny concept because it is not easy. I think Joey can probably attest recently just to how complex promoting and directing anything is. And one of the jokes was, this whole best bike game ever thing. It was, initially when I was thinking about what to do and how to do it, because we had nothing. We had nothing. We had no course. We had no venue. We had no rules. We had no distances, nothing. I said, well, what is the best bike game ever? What can we do that makes it that? So what we did was we worked off of what Dirty Kansas was back in 2017, which was like, it's June 1st. It's 200 miles. There's no signage. It's in freaking Kansas. There's a lottery there. It's wildly expensive to get yourself out there, to pay for it, and etc. And it's a great event. It's the gold standard of gravel events. But when we thought about when are we going to do it, where are we going to do it, how are we going to run it, we were basing it off of people that are targeting that kind of event as their world championships of the year. They need something that builds them to that point, And so we built everything around, okay, in March, you don't want to do 200 miles or 300 miles. You want to have something that's a stepping stone. Yeah. But there aren't a whole lot of races that were 150 miles long. So when we built it, we said, okay, it's going to be 150 miles. And then we said, okay, like nobody likes to go out and not have a race without course markings or whatever. You get lost. Nobody wants to finish an event and be like, well, I missed the sign, I missed the turn. And so we did those kind of things where like we made the signage really easy. We made the route simple enough. We gave the aid stations the right kind of duration, so where nobody's out there for 4 hours waiting to the next aid station or they missed it or any of that kind of stuff. So we built all these things around the rider and the experience of the rider because that's what we were going for. Still to this day, all this stuff lives on, but now the Buck 50 has its own like ecosystem of what people expect the Buck 50 to be. Now it changes every year, between the course and the way the Croatan is or the cornfield or whatever the things are. But ultimately the experience for a rider is based around when you come to an event and you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a course, you're going to get some swag, you're going to get some food or some drink or some support or whatever those things are. And every race is trying to provide that stuff in the way that they're going to do it. The thing that makes us a little different is when we built the race, we built it around what is the best thing that we can do, not like the minimum, but what's the best thing we can do for every rider. Now, granted, it's not that we're better than other races. It's that's the focus of the event, is how can each participant, from the person that's doing the 50 for the first race to the the men and women that are winning the Buck 50, how can we have an equal experience for them? And I think we're trying to constantly get there. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying best bike game ever. I hope people hear me. It's like, it's almost a tongue-in-cheek way of saying, like, we're going to keep trying to be
better,
the best bang for the buck experience you can find. That's kind of the way it works.
Yeah. Well, I've always
too long there, but
I've always said that. I have always from day one said I'm not exactly sure how you provide the experience at the cost point that you do, because you can go down there. Nobody says, well, it's a distance, it's a this thing, it's a that thing. Do you know how inexpensive it actually is to come to Buck 50? Because
way cheaper than the one I did Dirty Kansas.
Holy cow! The travel, yeah, it might be
My fun level was different.
6 or 8 hours, but so what? That's a little bit of travel. Once you get there, you've got this amazing camping experience, and yes, everyone there are beach houses that are easily within reach. Go down and put your family in a beach house, and then the night before and the night after the event, come and stay at the racetrack, because that honestly I think is probably the best way to do it. The experience of what happens at that track the night before and the night after is really what brings it home for me.
Yeah.
And the fact that that's all, that camping is all included in your entry fee. And then the swag.
And one of the things about the swag and the cost and the expense is like, I think race directors have a really hard time, and I do too. I struggle with it every year. It's like, you set an entry fee, you get a certain amount of racers, you have a certain amount of revenue, and then you got to figure out every expense. Every expense. And the expenses, it's not that they're so exorbitant, but every decision is like a good, better, best decision. You know, how you can't have the best swag, the best food, the best timing, the best venue, the best, and then also be the cheapest.
Right.
And there are a lot of events out there that are less expensive than the Buck 50, but the thing is, the experience is less. Now, I'm not saying that that's bad, because there's a lot of races that you can go to that, you know, you're not looking for swag, you're not looking for food, you're looking to go be tested in the course, and you don't need all that other stuff.
Right.
But what we do, and at the price point that we do it at, we ask you to pay a little bit more, because it is a bigger experience. And it's not a manufactured bigger experience. It's like when you get 800 people together in the middle of the Croatan and have this event, you know, the experience is because of the people. I've always said that. Like, if y'all don't show up and do what you do when you camp and your vibe, then this experience is just a ride in the woods.
Yeah.
But when you show up, when your group shows up, and we help provide some of the other stoke elements that, you know, that the entry fee provides, then it all becomes this magic sauce, you know. And it is not the race or the environment or the racetrack or the Croatan, it's all of it. It's like a gumbo or something, you know. We're all throwing our pieces in there, and when we get here, I mean, it's awesome. Like, I that's what I love about it. I never anticipated that when we thought about it, because, you know, I've done a lot of races, man. I've done a lot of mountain bike races, God bless them, where it's just me out in the woods, freaking miserable, going full speed into nowhere, and coming across the finish line and just being exhausted, getting back in my car and leaving. And that's one kind of experience, but that's not what this is. You know, this is a different thing. And for those people that are looking at the price and saying like, well, it's a lot of money. I mean, honestly, it is not cheap, but it is $100 cheaper than some of the bigger events that you go to, where you've got 3,000 people there, you know. And we keep it low. We keep it at 800. That's enough. But we keep it there because it still sells out, and it's still a big event, but it is not too big.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
If you want to come see me and talk to me, you can do that.
Yeah,
you can't do that at a 3,000 person event. You know, I can give time to people, and not that that's what it's about, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you can reach out and touch everybody in this event if you want to, in a good way, in that community vibe. That's what we're all looking for, you know?
Yeah. Joey does enjoy it when he goes to an event and people reach out and touch him. So
yeah, we all do. Well, no. I mean, I say that there are some events that probably, you know, there's a little too much of that going on. I just mean when you can get time with racers, and for me personally, be able to say thank you and hello and all that, like, that's great. I don't want to be in some booth somewhere orchestrating everything, you know, like, and not be able to actually be part of the event. I missed the first year when I got to ride around on the scooter the whole time. That was awesome. Those days are gone, but
well, you know, it's an event that, in my opinion, you bring your club, you bring your tribe, you bring your people, and that's, in my opinion, kind of what makes it.
It's an experience, not an event.
Yeah, and if you show up solo or with a couple of people, guess what?
Go hang out with other people.
You're going to be able to find people to hang out with and make friends.
Yeah.
And I mean, all you do is look for the black leather and the outsiders, and they will welcome anybody into their little tribe, into their little community. If they did it with us, they'll do it with anybody. Yeah. So I
do think there's another component too, where these fields are big enough where if you find yourself, even if you came with all your buddies, you're going to find people on the course that are right around your same pace, position in the course, and there's a lot of teamwork involved out on the course, even if it's for brief moments, and that's a nice experience for everybody. If you can find somebody that you can suffer with or have a laugh with or literally crush the whole thing with if you want to, and the way the course is laid out, it really lends itself to, even if because I've ridden tons of miles out there, and you can ride with people that are maybe not at the same level you're at, but if you back off just a hair and help them and you're working together, it isn't like you're like, man, I just rode this course so slow. You work together. You can meet in the middle on whatever the common pace is a lot easier, because there aren't a lot of hills. There's no hills, but there's not that challenge where the gradient comes in and puts the knife in between the two of you. So that's something that people don't realize too, is like, you'll find an ally out there. And then to the other end, you can find some racing too. If you're here to come race, oh boy, there's racing for you as well.
Yeah. I know 2 years ago I rode with Chris, and Chris had never done a century before. So that was Buck 50 was his first century. And
that's a hard one to do.
That's a hard one to do.
Yep.
And I committed to him. I said, Chris, I'll ride with you. I'll ride with you this whole thing. The only thing I'm going to ask of you is when we get back to that racetrack for that turnaround, which I think it gets a lot of people where they go, I'm not going back out there again. and I told Chris, I said, I will commit to doing this thing with you if you will commit to turning it around and going back out.
Yeah.
And he agreed, and he did the thing, and he finished really strong and had a great day.
I got half naked for you guys too on the
the
wall.
That's right. Didn't you get a nipple caught in a fence or something? An injury.
That you bring up a good point, Brian, too, because that's another thing that a happy mistake of having multiple laps. I think it's a great opportunity for people to bail.
Yeah.
And I think it's good that people bail. I mean, cycling has a real thick and twisted culture of, if you finish, no matter what. And there are times when you need to stop, and if you're in that position, there is this ability for you to do that without getting drug off the course 40 miles from nowhere. There's a natural place where you can make that decision for yourself. Like, am I injured? Is my bike beyond repair? Do I not have it today? And you can bow out safely, or the other side is you have this shot of your own stuff. So you come back to the racetrack and you have your own cooler, you have your own aid station for yourself, and you don't have to worry about, man, I'm out in the middle of the dusty Croatan and all they have is a whatever and I don't eat that. So there's an element of that lap that also plays on both sides of it, where yes, we have a lot of people stop the race at the lap point, but honestly, all of those people needed to stop, and they chose to, and that's totally fine. We don't call them out. We don't DNF people. We just list their time that they did finish, and I try not to. I don't want people to feel bad, because I hate it when you go do something, and because I've DNF'd many a race, because I've shown up to many a race completely unprepared, and not proud of it, but it's happened. And I've not done well. And then everyone's like, how was it? How was it? And you're like, I was awful. I quit. I walked off the course. You don't really need to, you don't need to remember those days. Some of those days are best left in the past. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the big thing, it's the first one of the year. I think the biggest thing is just showing up and starting.
Yeah.
And I feel like I never
absolutely.
felt the guilt at Buck 50 if I didn't go out for the second lap.
Nope. Not at all.
The party's there. Like, no one I hate it in the running culture where everyone asks what distance you do and all this other, like, It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I love that. That's part of the reason I think the vibe. Everybody felt it last year with the vibe being a little bit off, with there being like that second set of shorter distances going the next day, and everybody was leaving, and I think that was that disconnect. It was great to try. You try new things, you don't know what's going to work, but I think bringing it all back is gonna just the stoke is gonna increase. Yeah. The stoke is going to be back to where it was. Now,
I hope so.
Now, the heat map of people that you get, where are the folks coming from that are doing Buck 50?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how we really rank I don't know how you rank bike races, but I think as far as the Mid-Atlantic is concerned, this has to be one of the biggest gravel races that there is. Primarily, we see everybody from, Vermont down to Georgia, and they're coming here. If you're in the DMV or Pennsylvania or North Carolina area, like this is where you're going to come to do the big gravel race. I've been to Vermont enough, and I love Vermont's races. It's a drive. And so most folks that think that this isn't really close, because we're 2 hours from the interstate where we are, right? So we are as far east as you can get, but we're still 6 hours from DC. It's not that far. And people won't realize that North Carolina is really wide. We're 6.5 hours from Asheville, where we are right now. So you can get here from Western North Carolina, from West Virginia, from PA, from DC, from any of those areas in a short enough time. And that's where we draw most of our people. Yeah, we get people from California, Colorado, Canada, all over the place. But the true squads that come down are all East Coast based. And as a guy who lives East Coast, rides East Coast, grew up riding East Coast does not get enough love in the cycling community at all. We're West Coast biased. This isn't me complaining, but gravel specifically is kind of strange because most of your gravel is in the middle of nowhere. I got nothing against Kansas, but it is not close to anything. And so we have this unique spot where we have 200 miles of gravel roads in a national forest that's 6 miles from the beach. Like, that's very rare. Well, I mean, it's not rare. It doesn't exist. And so you can get 15 or 20 miles from anyone in the middle of the Croatan and have that experience where, like, literally no one's around, except for alligators and deer and turtles and stuff. But that's such a cool part of where we are located. That's what makes us a little bit different. It's just there's no houses, there's no people, there's no humans for miles, and that's how close we are to the beach. But yet,
I kind of
demographic.
I look at it kind of like a travel day is a travel day, whether it's 3 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. It's the day. Right? And if you approach it that way, we have a lot of fun sometimes when we go places. Just the drive can be kind of a good time.
If you stop at a Buc-ee's or something.
Yes, Lord have mercy. If you stop at a Buc-ee's. If you got a Buc-ee's close by, can they put a Buc-ee's into maybe Emerald Isle or we pull that?
Yeah, but okay, this is a good point. You're bringing this up. And you're talking about the fact that we all went on a 2-day trip, a 2-day drive down to Florida, and Florida's awesome. We had a great bike packing trip down there back in January, and it was super rad. But like the commitment to get there is legit. We are centrally located on the East Coast, where even if you're coming from Canada or from Florida, you can still get here. And I'm not like promoting that, but like, no, we don't have a Buc-ee's. Buc-ee's are few and far between.
But they're joyous.
And Buc-ee's is awesome. Buc-ee's is awesome. I would love to have a Buc-ee's here, but yeah.
Well, I think
it's all good.
It's one of those things that there's also the weather. In that mid-March window where we are just 6 hours north, we can still be in the throes of some wintry weather.
Yep.
But it always feels like that lower coastal North Carolina, the temperate zone. It always feels like it's the beginning for me. It's like that first little breath of that spring coastal kind of like that warm air. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
And it's the beginning of
we've seen it all. And like we're the week after Mid-South. And the season I think the season kind of kicks off at Mid-South, but again, that's a West Coast dominated event. And if you've noticed the last few years, the way their course is and the way their stuff is, they have that potential for just kind of, they can get nasty weather too. It can be wet, it can be muddy. The big difference with us, and I think we saw it last year, we had the absolute worst case scenario weather the night before the event. And if you were here and experienced it like Joey and Brian did actually at the track, we had a legit storm come through, and the winds were savage. The rain was crazy all the way until I was back at the course or back at the speedway at 5 or whatever in the morning, and it was pouring.
Yeah.
I mean, pouring rain. But even still, yes, when we got to the cornfield, we had a muddy ditch. The rest of the course was awesome.
Yeah.
And we probably got 3 or 4 inches of rain that night. Like, it was crazy. And so that doesn't mean it's always going to be like that. If you remember back a couple years ago when Sector 4 was crazy, if we have a muddy conditions, it can be insane. But this year, and in the way the course is now, the gravel part, the roads part is awesome. And we've got many years or a couple bad hurricanes from having the course go bad again. But
now,
and I'm not anticipating it being anything better than anything worse than the way it is right now.
The story I heard was the reason that the roads kind of got that boost was because of the fire. That they had to bring in the equipment, the apparatus, and they had to actually build the roads to get them back out.
Yeah, so basically the quick story is in 2018, the road conditions were average, and we had Florence come through, and it really decimated this area. We had 37 inches of rain in 4 days, and the hurricane just kind of came and sat here. So not only did you have a lot of tree damage, but you had so much water that things like the culverts in the Croatan that are crossing the road, all those ditches that are in the Croatan that are getting the water out of there, because it's basically a big elevated swamp. And the roads got decimated. They were already not in great shape. Well, getting the money and the manpower activated to fix that, because it is, it's a federal property, it took a while. I mean, it took years. And so from 2018, we had the race, but in 2019, it was rough. 2020, we had the COVID year, didn't get to do it. 2021, we didn't get to do it. When we came back in 2022, if y'all remember, this is the year that we had the Sector 4 issue. It was crazy. We still hadn't fixed it, and it wasn't until 2023 that the course actually burnt. So we had a forest fire that spread in April of 2023 after the race that we had that literally covered the whole entire forest in one 24-hour period. So that was a wake-up call that not only could they not fight the fires like they needed to because the roads are in bad shape, but that activated all sorts of funding to get in there and do it. So from May of 2023 all the way through until February of 2024, they were getting it. So 200 miles of road, and every single mile of that road has been fixed, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So we're fortunate right now. We're kind of in that season of it where we're going to enjoy it while it's here. Hopefully they'll be able to keep maintaining it. It's not necessarily their fault. It's a budgetary thing.
Sure.
It takes a lot of money and a lot of rock to maintain 200 miles of dirt road. And but right now we're in a good season with it. We'll probably have a few years of great conditions. So
yeah. So Matt, one more time. The event is March 15th.
Yes, sir.
The weekend activities begin on the 14th and they shut down on the 16th. So keep that in mind. Keep your whole window.
Correct.
If you're looking at this, folks, don't focus on the 15th. Focus on
the whole
entire weekend. That's the thing to do.
Hey, real quick, is there like a Facebook group of like, I don't know, I haven't been on Facebook much, like a Buck 50,
like riders group?
Yeah.
Is there, Matt? Do you know?
There are a few groups. Oh. There's been some groups in the past about entries and stuff like that. I think you guys should start a Buck 50 group that I don't have to manage and maintain myself.
I don't want to do that, but Brian can.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking,
way to come up with something, Joey, that none of us have the bandwidth to do. Yeah.
I'm a little preoccupied right now. I'm just saying, like, we need to put together like a chili cook-off or something for one of these nights. There, a little competition between.
Well, I like
back to what you were saying, Brian, because I think this is important. Plan on taking the day off on Friday.
Yeah.
A lot of people come down on Thursday, actually.
Yep.
So on Friday, they don't have to travel. They can enjoy it.
Yep.
They can ride the course. That's one unique thing about this place here is like, the course is always open. So you can come, you can get in a pre-ride with no stress on Friday. You do your packet pickup and all that kind of stuff you want to do, and then you're ready to roll for Saturday morning.
Yeah.
The other thing on the way we do it is if you come here on Friday and get your stuff, there is nothing to do on Saturday but just be on the start line. There's no check-in, there's no drama. And then as far as Saturday night is concerned, there's a lot of folks like yourselves that stay. That's when you can really unwind and you can relax and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Come Sunday morning, I always envision everyone's going to hang out. Y'all know, because you've done it. You're guilty of it. As soon as people can get up and leave on a Sunday, they're out. I can roll over to the speedway at 8:00 in the morning on a Sunday, and there is one car left in there. So it is not a full weekend. Sunday is a travel day, 100%. Which is totally fine because if you blow it out on Saturday night, you got the whole day to drive home. So that's typically the way it works. But Friday night is fun. It's low key. We also kind of keep it early. People are the way that the light is and stuff. People are asleep by 9:00 or whatever, 9:30 or something like that. So, and it's not a crazy early start.
Yeah.
We're going to start this year at 7:30. We've started in the past at 8. That's plenty of time to get up, warmed up, and go get out there. So
you're already there. You're already at the venue. You don't need to
you have to stress about parking and getting anywhere you need
to
go.
Right, exactly. Just folks do
Even
it.
if you're at the beach, you're only 10-minute drive away, and there's no traffic. You can park outside of the speedway. There's plenty of space. You can literally hop on your bike, ride in, come to the start, and you're cleared hot. So it is very low stress. I hope it's low stress from that angle for the racers. I feel like that's the way it is.
Yeah, I would agree. It always feels like there's like a super chill kind of start thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that that angst that sometimes you sense at the events, and especially when you get the big event too, like the 3,000 event, you're like trying to figure out where do I seed myself, where do I put.
Yeah.
You don't have to do any of that. It's just super chill, and if you're tip of the spear and you're racing, you know where you need to be, and the rest of us can kind of just figure it out. Just figure it out. So
yeah.
But again, March 15th.
Yep.
Plan for the weekend. Registration opens when? One more time?
Sunday. This Sunday, September 15th.
Good.
At noon.
And
on
now,
Bike Reg.
Do you have to know the distance that you're... How committed do you have to be during registration on your distance?
Yeah, so a few years back we changed this. We're basically like, if you register for the Buck 50 or the Buck or the 50, it's all the same price. And you can change your own registration. Okay. So If you pick the wrong category, you pick the wrong distance, or a lot of people come February will start to be like, you know what? Signed up for the Buck 50, not feeling it, want to change to the Buck.
Yeah.
It's very common and it's totally fine. And instead of calling me and asking me to change it, we keep that open basically until 1 month out. We kind of force people 1 month out from the event to say, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to commit to it, because then we can
Plan.
finalize things like race numbers and all that kind of stuff and know who's doing what. But yeah, you can change it. If you're going to do the 20 is significantly cheaper, because it's kind of just like I don't want to say it's a beginner's race, but there's no aid station. It's a shorter event. And it's sort of happening in the middle of a 50 lap. So while everybody's out on their 50 lap, the 20 people are kind of behind you doing a little shorter thing. That race you can't change. So once you're in that, you can't swap out of it.
Got it.
Now, but otherwise, so we've got over the course of the past, all of the big squads from the Mid-Atlantic are here. We also have some really cool stuff. Like, we do a lot with Wounded Warriors and the adaptive sports community. I think we're one of the leaders in that front for offering that kind of experience for riders who have variations in their style of bike and challenges in the traditional format. So we've got that dialed. We've got non-binary categories and have for a long time, and we're very. I personally, as a race director, I feel like this is one of the few events that has about as much equality in it baked into it than it can, because whether you're winning the Buck 50 or you're starting the 20 and nervous as heck in the very back of the pack, course is going to meet you at your ability level that day.
Yeah.
It's going to give you everything you need, nothing you don't. And the experience at the end is a sense of satisfaction for everyone. And rarely have I seen people not in a good mood after the event. And I just think that's a blessing. Like, that's not a reflection on me or the event itself. It's more of the total experience of it is a positive experience.
Yeah.
And sure, there's some lows and some people, but it's not a place where you get a lot of flats. It's not a place where you see a lot of injuries. It's not a place where people crack physically.
Right.
And so that all those things add up to a lot of happy racers at the end.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen. I mean, you're going to see injuries. You're going to see things that happen.
Sure.
That's inevitable, but it's not over the top like you see at some of these events.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, folks, make sure you get on there and Bike Reg. Just look for Croatan Buck 50. You can go to the website. You can go to the socials. I'll put links to all that stuff. I know them all, Matt. I'll put them all in the show notes so people can get there. We haven't talked Ridge Supply at all, but I want to just say the New Burn socks, so hot. Joey, did you see the New Burn socks? I really liked those, Matt. I liked those a lot.
You didn't see them because he was in full Micah mode, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just had the Bike MS ride here in New Bern this past weekend, and we've got some folks in our ambassador community and stuff that fight MS every day, and some people that work in that field, and have family members that are getting after it. And so we've always really been, I say we, but just, it's been something that is part of our bike community. And so, yeah, those socks, we made those socks for one of the teams that was in there, and then we had some extras going. But every year there's two big events down here. There's the Tour Tanglewood, and then there's the one in New Bern. And they're big deals for fundraising and for, the riders that are out there getting after it. So
yeah, I like those.
Those
like
good.
Had to have a sock.
I didn't see those.
Those look sharp.
Though the last subscription socks, they were like blue.
Here we go, Blake.
Those things
Like the
were.
puppy.
Those are my all-time favorites right now.
Which ones again?
I don't remember the colorway. They were in the last subscription package.
Okay.
The name of the colorway, but
Okay. Well, that's good information, Joey.
Always that. Yeah. Just more, you
I know what
guys should
I know what you're
subscribe.
talking about, Joey.
Yeah. So you just don't subscribe.
I don't. I'd be overrun with socks. I can't be overrun with socks. I can't.
Well, the Phoenix subscription is every other month,
Yeah.
Brian. So it's just 6 socks a year, but they
well, that's not
don't
bad.
get released to the public. So that's why you don't know about it. So
Yeah.
Oh.
you only get them. You only get them if you're part of that subscription.
I
So
did
it's like a little bit of a private Rid Supply.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I need
And
to
they're
get
usually
on
the
board.
socks that everyone's like, oh.
I'll get on
love those
board with
colorways.
that. I did not realize it was every other month. That's at 6
I like them when people like them, and I'm like, well, you can't get them unless you subscribe.
Okay, I'll get on that program. I need to get on that program. Yeah. Well, listen, Matt, it is great catching up. We're going to talk about Buck 50 all the way into to March. I can guarantee it because it's a big part of what we do over the winter.
It's 6 months of us.
It's prepping for that 2025 kickoff that is, in my opinion, it's almost like, you know how the Daytona 500 is like the biggest race and it's at the beginning of the season.
The Cape Carteret 500, yeah.
Yeah, I feel
That's right.
like Buck 50 kind of has that. For me, it has that same vibe. It's like the big race. It's at the beginning of the season. It kind of kicks out.
You can see all your friends, too.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a big part about it, too, is catching up with people that, you bring your own tribe, you bring your own club, but then you also, the more you do this, the more you're connected with these other tribes and these other groups, and you have that opportunity.
And I get to see you guys.
Yeah.
That's good too.
Yeah.
I will say, if you're intimidated,
Don't be.
No. If you're intimidated and maybe you haven't done anything yet, there's definitely volunteer spots, which get you the experience.
Yeah.
You get a help. I always preach that everyone needs to volunteer an event or two a year. There's so many people that will not ride their bike. It's a little upsetting. Like, you go to 15 events a year, like, pay your taxes, volunteer for one event. It won't hurt.
Okay, so to reiterate on that, I had a misrepresentation of volunteering prior to starting a race. I try not to solicit volunteers because I don't want people to feel like they have to miss out on the experience of racing to volunteer. But when you do volunteer at a race, I think you don't realize how rewarding it is to be around your peers and helping them achieve the thing that they're trying to achieve on the day. And I think volunteers get a bad rap in people's minds because you think, oh, they're going to make me sit in a chair on some corner and do nothing for 8 hours. I don't want to do that. That's not really what volunteering is. Those are folks that volunteer at a lot of events because they have a spouse or somebody doing it, and they're fine, just put me somewhere. We put people to work in a way that they want to do. So, like, I'm never going to ask somebody to do something that they don't want to do, but it's engaging to volunteer at the event. If you want to drive the course, or you want to help pick people up, or you want to work an aid station, or you just want to, pick up trash or whatever, like, there's always a job, and those jobs are super important because I certainly can't do it all myself. And I think we have a group of volunteers that come back and want to do it, and it's because you're getting something back from the 800 people that you're serving during the day too. There's something really cool about that. So
yeah.
Now Joey did some emceeing. You can't forget this. Joey did some emceeing a few years ago because Brian made a joke that I did not pick up was a joke on this podcast.
Still feel bad about that.
Yeah. And it's okay, but he had a great time, and
I had a blast.
Yes.
We don't have MCs anymore, but that's not because of Joey.
It's probably because
it's just
of me.
not something.
It's like across the board with gravel events. No, I've had some of my best experiences just volunteering at events.
I almost feel as bad about that joke as I do about you going the wrong way.
At Campfire,
At Campfire, which is another thing. I understand why Campfire didn't happen this year, but boy, people really missed out on that. They
come to Buck 50.
Come to Buck 50.
I mean,
but it is what it is.
And we didn't have for those people who are wondering, like, we didn't have Campfire for a couple reasons, but mainly it's just because people weren't signing up. And that's not an indictment on people. It's just you cannot have a bike race without racers.
Yeah.
So, uh, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. I certainly don't want to do the work
Yeah.
involved and the expense involved just to say we had it. And it might be one of those things that, we just never have again, but we had one.
We had one, and it was a hoot. It
Yeah.
was an absolute
Swole Scorpion.
hoot. I can say that was just a fantastic a weekend again. So to cap it all off, but maybe it comes back, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah.
It does. It's irrelevant. But Buck 50 is here. Buck 50 is here to stay,
Yep.
and it is something not to miss.
Yeah.
Not to miss.
Come hang out with us.
Yeah.
Bring some smoked pistachios.
Oh yeah, and it is a pistachio shell free zone this year. Correct. No pistachios will be cracked.
Those were life changing. They were awesome. They were
Unbelievable.
Awesome. And he sent me some bags of them, and I fired through them for the longest time. The problem with a beard like I have is the smoked pistachios. They are the gift that keeps on giving.
Absolutely.
You can eat like 4 of them, and for the next 3 hours, you smell like a campfire, which is not all bad, but you're like, what does that smell? You're like, it's me.
Oh, it's me.
I ate these pistachios.
I will say this.
Yeah.
I still have now. I refuse to eat like the last little layer. I put them in a mason jar, and I refuse to eat the last little layer, and I keep it in the cupboard. And every once in a while, I'll go in there and I'll uncork it, and I'll take a big whiff, and I'll put it back on. I'm not eating those bottom layers. Going, just staying in the jar. I mean, I think I'll see Jesse this coming weekend at Shunk.
Yeah.
So maybe he'll reprise that pistachio nut thing.
I got a question for you guys before we go.
Sure.
Every year we change the logo, change the kind of colorway, just because it's Ambridge Supply, I can't help it. This year I'm doing like a blue and a pink.
Yeah.
And my question to you, as people who've come to the events, what is your favorite swag item that you've gotten, and what bonus swag item should we offer this year? We're gonna do socks. We're gonna do a T-shirt, and they'll be on brand. But what's the other item? I know Brian's liked the bottles before.
The bottles and the fact that, a lot of times you go to an event and you'll get the one bottle. The fact that you did the 2 bottles, I mean, that's the way you're supposed to do it. And I still use those bottles. I love them. They're matching. They're beautiful. Joey, what about you?
I actually don't know. I like enamel mugs. Just inexpensive little coffee cups, but
Yeah,
I like the theme of the NASCAR a couple of years ago, and like the secondary item is like I bought a couple jerseys from Phillip. I don't wear them.
Yeah,
I don't fit into that race cut too much, but they're on my wall. And they were at the shop for a while, and a lot of people wanted to buy them.
I know one thing that Travis has always done, which I found cool, is the posters.
I love event posters.
Yeah, event posters.
Kind of like a.
Pat does that with Lulaka, and
they're all over too. My room or my little office upstairs. I don't know. That's a tough question. Like, I'm also the kind of person, I'm a little weird where all my Buck 50 socks and like my rodeo rally socks I don't wear. I still have them wrapped up.
Oh, because they're like
Really?
they're like trophies kind of thing.
Yeah, and I feel like they're socks. They get worn out a little bit and they fade and stuff like that. And I love those.
Yeah,
ones.
my thing all along was like we go to events. This isn't an indictment on anybody's event, but like it's all the same stuff that you get, and a lot of it is like not stuff that you're going to use. And so in the very beginning, the first year, like we did an anvil and a hammer for the winners. So we had like, not that they're going to use a hammer or an anvil, but we actually had prizes that were like something that you would set somewhere, and granted you can't move that little anvil around very much, but and in the early years we had the hand up gloves, and like there's been things like that where obviously you're never gonna. This is the trick of the 800 people. You're never gonna make everybody happy.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to produce things for people and give it to them and it be a wasteful thing either. So I'm trying to make sure that what we do give is at least used by most of the people or appreciated, a kind of thing. Because otherwise it's just throwing money into a furnace,
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder, in like the triathlon world, you get a medal, and if you don't get a medal, then it just like it didn't happen, which is fine. That's part of the culture of it. But in cycling, it's just different. A lot of places you literally don't get anything, or maybe you just get a T-shirt. So one thing I always try to do is make sure that even what you get is custom and on brand, rather than like say another brand's marketing thing, because that's fine, but not everybody's going to have the same association with a brand thing,
I do appreciate
like
the fact. I appreciate the fact that your T-shirts aren't covered with brand logos.
Yeah.
It's the event T-shirt. It's the event thing. It's not disparaging what anybody else out there does, but I do like that.
No. And I think what you're pointing at too is like the event is the one buying that stuff, not it. When you have other sponsors on the T-shirt, that's because they contributed to it, and that's okay. But when the event, that's one reason why like people wonder where the resources go. This is where they go.
Yeah.
They go into things that are not. Nobody is covering the cost of some item for you,
Yeah.
And it's not to say you sign up for a bike race to get swag. I just mean that we sort of built our reputation on having the best swag, so I still am always looking for what that item might be, that third item in the mix, that's
I like
it over there. We've done hats. Do y'all like the hats that we've done?
Oh yeah.
Do you wear them all?
I'm a hat person.
Oh yeah. I actually wear the camo one with the orange.
I started
all the time
wearing that as much because I'm going to wear it out.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite hats.
Yeah.
I will say our time trial for Nike, for Mickle a couple of weeks ago, I fist pumped, shook hands with every rider, and one rider had the 2020 Buck 50 gloves.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was like, your parents, yeah.
It
was cool. It was cool seeing those at a youth mountain bike race.
As somebody that doesn't do mountain bike as much as I used to, or even at all anymore, the hand-up gloves kind of got lost in the mix for me.
I have your gloves.
Do you?
Took them, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. There we go.
I didn't get them back.
That's why they got lost.
I wore them this past weekend doing
Did
two
you?
rides. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Wow, that's good. It's good. They should get some use. They should get some use. I think they might have been a little too small for me anyway.
Yeah.
But I was just never a hand-up glove guy. Once you get out of the mountain bike world, it's kind of a,
I wear them on the road, too.
Do you really?
Yep, full finger.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I wear a full finger glove every day.
Every ride is a full finger glove.
Why is
not
that?
on Zwift. I'm not that extreme, but
why do you? I mean, both of you said that. So why do you choose the full finger over the half finger?
Brian, you must not have ever just yard sailed it with your hands, because that's why you wear a full finger glove.
Talk to the guy with the dangling pinky over here. My pinky won't go straight because of that. So I know.
Well, gloves weren't going to stop that.
No, gloves were not going to stop that.
100% for me. Yeah, I've gone down in road races and stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
There was a day when I did that.
Well,
but
that's why I wear them.
It's all for protection.
I mean,
I don't need the padding. I hate the gloves with a bunch of padding. That's why I like hand-ups.
Yeah, I look for the gloves with the minimal.
And they're not
padding.
Inside out when you pull them off every time.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah.
Because I wear the
fingers for life.
Half finger gloves. Full finger forever. Okay.
Yeah, well, we're all not correct.
We all do things wrong.
Get with the program, Brian.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I got to get on the subscription program. I got to get on I got all these things I've got to take care of this afternoon.
Yeah.
All right. So listen, again, Matt, thank you for taking up a lot of your time. We really do appreciate it. Folks, we're going to have all the links for all the things. Get in and register early, because that's what's going to motivate you through this off season. Don't wait till January to register. Register now.
Yep.
So that
or gift it as a holiday present to a friend. There you go.
That is a fantastic
price
idea.
also goes up October 1st.
Yep.
So those first 2 weeks
Get in.
is when you can save the money.
Good present, too.
Yeah.
Get in, and it's a fantastic. I hadn't even thought about that, Joey.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What a great idea.
Jess bought me a Grindera ticket for my birthday a couple years ago.
That is fantastic. So there you go. So and buy 2 or 3 of them, because you may have a friend that wants to come too. Go ahead and can you buy one just in advance, knowing that you may have a significant other in the spring that you're going to want to take with you?
I've already had people reach out and ask for some, not bulk discounts, but to register and pay for bulk people. So I'm always available. I can help facilitate any gifts that you're looking to do, but we do need people to individually sign up for their details and the waiver and all that kind of stuff.
And waiver stuff for that.
But paying for it's different. We can figure that out. There's ways around it.
Got it. Well, there it is. Buy early, buy often, buy a lot, and register and get in. And then maybe there will be an aftermarket. People will be selling them on eBay. I don't know. Who knows? You may have an asset that you can unload at some point in the future.
That's a bigger problem. But anyway.
Don't do that, people. Don't do that. I'm joking. Anyway, we are going to go ahead and shut this thing down. One more time, Matt. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody, for listening to this episode of Mid-Atlantic Gravel, Travel, and Naked Dirt. If you've enjoyed the podcast, hey, send us a little bit of love just with a note that says a little love. We appreciate the little love notes. It says thank you for doing the podcast. You don't need to send us money. You don't need to do all of that stuff. Just send us a little thank you.
Subscribe to the Rich Supply socks.
Socks. There you go. Show your support by helping out Matt. Joey, how can folks get in touch with us if they want to do that?
GravelTravelDirt.com, and our Instagram, if it still exists, is at Mid-Atlantic.
It does still exist. I put something there every once in a while. Mid-Atlantic Gravel, Travel, and Dirt is recorded this week from Joey's Kitchen all the way down to coastal North Carolina. Thank you one more time, Matt, and thanks everybody for riding along. Until next time, do good, be nice, go slow, respect others. Love you, bye. Love you, bye.